All right, Anabolic Academy. It is Monday night again. Before we get started, two things. Well, first, like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. But two things. The first thing is, I think I'm going to start doing Anabolic Academy live every Monday instead of recording it Monday and putting it out on Tuesday morning. Um, Let me know in the comment section if you think that's a good idea. I think it's a pretty good idea because then not only the questions that you could send me via Instagram and email and whatnot, you could also just throw it out in the comments while we're doing the show. And it's pretty convenient, or ask me a backup question to one of my answers. I mean, that would be pretty cool. And a lot of times I don't think of things right away because I'm doing this on the fly. And later on in the comment section, I see somebody says, "Hey, you forgot this person or you forgot that." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, you're right. I totally forgot about that." So I think it would be a good idea. And it's fun because I'll be able to interact with everybody. So the other thing is, I went to go look at a small studio, which would increase the quality of the podcast. So I might, uh, maybe start off twice a week where I'm doing it from the studio, and the rest will be doing it from home. I just have to figure out what shows I'd like to incorporate both channels, which is actually really cool. So we are going onward and upward. I'm in negotiations with several people for sponsorships. So everything is looking in the up and up. And I am happy that you guys are watching my show and the channel is growing. And I'm actually becoming somewhat of a name in the bodybuilding community. So it'll be fantastic as the future goes on. Now, Anabolic Academy, I say this every week. What is it? You ask me, John Olivia, questions on this channel, serious and silliness bodybuilding, and then I answer them. So, how can you reach me? Well, you can reach me through Instagram, serious and silliness. You can reach me through Facebook, John Livia. You can reach me through TikTok, John Livia. You can email me, John underscore Livia at Yahoo, or my other email, Uncle John 1201 at Gmail. So you have quite a bit of questions because now every week I'm getting more and more questions. I'm loving it. I'm loving that it's growing. I'm loving that you guys are paying attention, that everybody is sending me questions. It makes me very, very happy because it means that we are moving upward and onward. Now, let's jump right in, shall we? We have one, two, three, four, five questions from bad underscore ass underscore Mike 007 on Instagram. Badass Mike 007. Now, first question. Nick Walker at 2024 Mr. Olympia. I still think Nick Walker is going to be able to break the top five because I think how close, what's his name, Martin Fitzwater was at the New York Pro. I think probably scared the shit out of him. And I know he's going to probably come in harder and bigger and grainier than ever. He has tremendous control of his midsection, which is his thick waist is his problem, but he is so big, so massive, so chiseled that overcomes the flaw of his structure. Now, the problem comes in is when he stands next to guys like Andrew Jack and Samson Dowda, even Hadi and Derek, where those guys have as much muscle, but have the flow and the better structure, the better God-given structure. I don't see him breaking the top two. I think he's going to be somewhere between 3 and 5. Okay. Now, you got to remember, Nick was not in the Olympia last year. So he did lose to Samson at the Arnold Classic, but Nick really downsized himself so that he could come in, really, really hard. And he's the kind of guy that has to kind of stay full because he loses it a little bit in his legs. And Samson has this tremendous, beautiful structure with just as much muscle, but he can't come into condition as Nick. And now you have the wild card of Andrew Jack, which has proved that he can be a top 5, top 6 Olympian. But again, his problem is the opposite. He has great, great structure, beautiful physique, but he doesn't carry the same size as Samson, Nick, Hadi, and Derek. And he was in great condition. Let me rephrase that. He was in good condition at Texas, but he wasn't great in condition at Texas. And the Olympia, you have to be in great condition. Otherwise, you're going to be exposed. So that's going to be, you're comparing apples to oranges, right? You got Nick Walker, who has as much muscle as any bodybuilder has ever stepped foot on stage, comes in diced, chiseled, grainy, can't control his midsection, but he still has a thicker waist. Where an Andrew Jack is the complete opposite. He doesn't have as much muscle as Nick, even though he did put on more muscle. He doesn't have as much muscle as Nick, but he has this beautiful structure. And if he comes in with the same amount of muscle, this beautiful structure that he has, and he is as hard and grainy as chisel as Nick, then he could probably get past Nick. But I still think these guys, I think that's going to be your top guys. Okay, your top guys are going to be Derek, Hadi, Nick, Samson, Andrew Jack. I think those are going to be your top guys. Where they're going to fall is going to be very difficult. I think the top 2 guys, I think they got it locked down. I think Derek and Hadi are going to be battling for number 2. And I think Nick is going to be battling between 3rd and 5th. My opinion. But, I am a huge fan of Nick Walker. I have always been a fan of a mass monster because I was never a mass monster. And I always admired those guys. I always admired the Marcus Rules and the Ronnie Colemans and the Gunthers and the Mike Matarazzos, the Dorian Yates. And he's in that category. He comes out and it's like this massive human being with massive amounts of muscle. He's just so impressive and so imposing when he's on stage, and he has this incredible confidence on stage, and he's a decent poser for a guy that's so big. Plus, I don't want to sound partial, but his parents are fantastic, and they're from Jersey, and they are the friendliest, nicest, supportive people for him, and nicest people to the community, the bodybuilding community. I met them once and they made me feel like I knew them forever, which is typical. I think they're half Italian, typical Italian friendly people. They, a lot of times if you go into an Italian person's house, they make you feel like you've been there forever. You have like fucking family, Not all of them. Don't get me wrong. Some of the ones off the boat, that's what we refer to them as, the ones from Italy. They're a little cold. But anyway, they are great people. And I'm a huge fan of Nick because I'm a huge fan of his build. That's why I like Lewis Breed so much. I know, so who I emotionally like isn't always going to win. I just prefer those builds. I'm just more impressed by those builds. Like Lewis Breed. Lewis Breed has that hard, grainy, thick Dorian fucking Branch Warren look to him, right? But he lacks the structure, which is why he came in. Where did he come in? Fourth place, Anyway, next question from the hell is his name? Mike, a badass Mike 007 on Instagram. What is Lee Visser at 2024 Mr. Olympia? He's going to do very well. He's not going to beat Chris Bumps. He's not going to beat Chris Bumstead. I don't think he's going to beat I forgot the other guy's name who came in second, the Brazilian guy. I think he has the ability to break the top 5. I don't really pay attention much to the classic physique unless it is, unless it's one of those guys, right? Like I could tell you the top 5 guys, top 3 guys, but after that, I can't tell you much, just because I was not a big fan of classic physique. And I know classic physique is probably the most popular bodybuilding class because it's more appealing, because it seems more attainable. And the trend is not to be huge anymore. The trend is to be look like an athlete. And those guys basically appeal to the younger audience who want exactly what I just said. Um, I give them all the respect in the world because they still have to try hard. Those guys come in chiseled and they got to meet a weight limit and they have some incredible physiques. I was just never a huge fan of them as opposed to bodybuilding. One thing that irks me is when you put Bumstead up against like they put pictures like side by side Bumstead and Schwarzenegger. Bothers the shit out of me because Bumstead is not Mr. Olympia. He's the classic physique Mr. Olympia, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was Mr. Olympia. It would make more sense to put Arnold next to Derek and compare those two. But anyway, whatever. Uh, and the next question from Badass Mike 007. That's bad underscore ass underscore Mike 007. Best poses in the history of bodybuilding. I'm getting this question every week. And again, I say the same thing. The beautiful posing that hides your weaknesses and make sure uh your your pros, if you will, make sure strengths stand out with a slow, methodical, beautiful music in the background. I hate it. All right. I can't stand that. It is boring. It looks like ballet, and this is bodybuilding. I want to see the biggest, baddest motherfuckers on stage come out to some hardcore head banging music and start posing like a madman. Those are the ones I like. Either that or the ones that are entertaining and that could dance and get the good dancers, not like Nexzilla that danced like an idiot, but like a guy like King Kamali or Vince Taylor, where they could do the robot thing and so on and so forth. And you used to go to a show just to see those guys uh guest pose because they were such great guest posers. Who else am I thinking of? Another guy was Smalls, Fred Smalls, another great guest poser, entertaining, danced. He could do flying toe touches. The guy was really impressive. But so those are my favorite. And the guys that come out like nut jobs. Mike Matarazzo. Loved watching Mike Matarazzo. But the guys that are good posers today, um, obviously, in the history of bodybuilding. Oh God, the history of bodybuilding. I mean, yeah, Frank Zane was a good poser. Most of the better posers probably come from the 70s into the early 80s because they really, really felt that that was part of bodybuilding, that the posing routine was as important to bodybuilding as overall muscularity, your shape, your conditioning, your flow. So a lot of those guys, I mean, Arnold was a great poser. Franco Colombo was a great poser. Serge Nubret was a great poser. Uh, Frank Zane was a great poser. I'm probably missing people, right? I don't know. Leave it in the comment section. And this is why I want to go live so people could just say, hey, you're forgetting this one. You're forgetting that one. And I could go, oh, okay, yeah. But as far as I'm concerned, I like the guys. If you guys are old enough to remember Mike Matarazzo when he used to guest pose, or even when he guest posed with competing in the Olympia or any other pro show, he made the fans go nuts. He came out like a psychopath with his head pounding, crazy music, and he had his tongue sticking out. He would jump into the audience, and if you weren't entertained, you were scared shitless. Those are the poses that I liked. Okay. Next question. Most conditioned bodybuilders of all time. Okay, so there's that one guy that I can't never remember his name. I'll look him up right now. Muscle and Fitness. The 10 most conditioned bodybuilders. Okay. The guy I was thinking for is Munzer. I believe his name is Samir Bannout. Yes. When he won that Mr. Olympia contest, his conditioning was fantastic. Darren Charles, they have Rich Gaspari. Yeah, okay, yeah. Dexter, of course, yes. Phil Heath, you got to put him in there. Iris Kyle, 100% Iris Kyle. Out of all the times I've been asked this, I've always skipped Iris Kyle. And Iris, I know you don't watch this because I'm not a big podcast, but I apologize. You should always be in that category. You were always the most conditioned bodybuilder on stage, male or female. Flex Lewis, yeah, okay. Okay. Adrius Munster, that is the guy I was thinking of. Adrius Munster was insanely conditioned. Let's see here. Uh, he was during the 1990s. His quads was his best part of his body. Were like rows of stacked dominoes, and his triceps had more lines than Hamlet. That's actually pretty good. Competing in 20 pro shows from 1989 to his death in 1996. Munster defeated many of the legends of the celebrated era, including Ronnie, Vince Taylor, and Chris Cormier. That's the guy that I was thinking of. So, of course, the list goes on. Sean Ray, Frank Zane. Okay. Adrius Munster is the guy that I was thinking of. Okay. Now, number 5. Do you think the Olympia should be held outside the United States for every 2 years or so? Um, it depends where. I think if you held the Mr. Olympia contest in the Middle East, Iraq, Dubai, Iran, it would be insane because the Middle East loves bodybuilding. I mean, I don't think you'd be able to sell enough tickets. I don't think you'd be able to have an auditorium big enough, to be honest with you. It would be pretty cool, but I think it is just more reasonable for them to have it in the States because travel reasons, setting up, uh, travel expenses. I'm talking for the IFBB and the panel of people that run it and the sponsors and so on and so forth. It might be difficult to have it outside the country for whatever reason. There might be red tape. There might be political reasons, right? I don't know how it works. If you wanted to have a body Mr. Olympia contest in Iran, is it difficult because it's an American run sport, and a lot of these guys from the Middle East have hard times getting visas. Is it the same, the opposite? Would they let an American sport go over? I don't know. But if you're gonna put it in like, Australia or, you know, Africa somewhere or in the UK, you're gonna have the same turnout as the United States. So to me, it makes sense to have it somewhere in the Middle East because bodybuilding, even in Egypt, man, they are crazy about bodybuilding. Um, uh, I don't know the inner workings and the numbers on bodybuilding. Okay. I don't know. I would have to see. Like if you're getting the majority of live, if your live stream is selling mostly in the Middle East, then that would make sense to have it there, right? Because they're gonna buy the tickets and they're gonna spend the money and so on and so forth. I don't know if financially it makes sense for them to go outside of the United States. I'd have to see their books. I'd have to see what the money would be like. I'd have to see what if there's any conditions for sponsorships. I don't know all that. What I do know is they do prefer to keep it in the States for whatever reason. Maybe because it's just been working that long. They've had it in Vegas for God knows how long. And sometimes they have it in Florida. They had it in Florida during COVID because it was an open state. And I believe they had it in Florida last year, if I'm not mistaken. Was it Florida last year? Or was the Olympia last year? I don't remember. Doesn't matter. Make it a comment section. But that's where I lie on that. Now, okay, so that's it for Badass Mike 007. Now, of course, we go to Fran is the motherfucking man. Fran is the man. First question. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions from Fran is the man. Do you support when people Photoshop their pics, and have you ever done it to yourself? I've never done I've never done photoshopping my pic. Look, guys, what you see is what you get. My body, my personality, the person I am on this podcast, and the podcasts, all the podcasts that you watch, whether I'm interviewing somebody, whether I'm making jokes, whether I'm doing this Anabolic Academy, is the person I am in real life. So I wouldn't Photoshop anything because it does me no good. I'm marketing myself as being me because I truly believe that when you are a real person, as far as photoshopping and or your personality, I believe it comes through clearly to people. I don't believe people are that stupid that they don't understand a phony versus somebody who's real and down to earth and will speak his mind. And that's what I'm trying to brand myself on, that I am down to earth and I'm going to speak my mind and I'm not a phony, which, come on, you guys already know. The people that watch that already know that I'm not. So, no, I would never Photoshop. Now, if somebody else wants to Photoshop, all right, look, what happened to Arman Adibi, all right, was ridiculous. That was not a Photoshop to gain likes and subscribers. It was just a photographer that made him look like Superman, that made him look like this flawless bodybuilder. He liked the pics and he put them on his Instagram. He was actually, it was a compliment to him. And the guy did it and he put it on his Instagram. And he clearly is not trying to fool anybody because the picture right next to that picture is him regular, him in the gym, him in the bathroom taking a selfie, him on stage competing. So he's not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. You know, there have been people that put pictures up and try to, like, I think, what was it? Shreds back in the day. It was, yeah, I believe it was Shreds. And they would Photoshop every model to make their waist look small, their quads look bigger, their chest and arms look bigger. And then when you saw those people in person, you were like, you're not the same person. You look much smaller, whatever the case may be, not as conditioned, so on and so forth. But they were trying to sell a product and they were being dishonest. That I don't like. That to me is being dishonest. And I'll be honest with you, even if Shreds came to me, you know, and I don't even know if they still do it. Okay, I don't even know I don't know the where Shreds is at in the bodybuilding world anymore as far as supplement goes. But if somebody came to me with a sponsor, which I'm working on getting sponsors so I'm have the channel grow. I've been in talks with several different people, so hopefully something comes through. But if I don't think that you are an honest company, which I think most companies are, but if I think you're trying to pull the wool over the eyes of the consumer, the customer, my fan base, and anybody else's fan base, I can't take $1 from you. But sooner or later, you got people are gonna figure it out. Sooner or later, people are gonna figure it out. It's not that difficult. You know, people call it out all the time. So I do not want to be associated with somebody like that. I, I know I'm always kidding, going, I don't care how much money you give me, I would definitely. I mean, rather, I know I'm always kidding, saying, well, money talks, everything else walks. I'll definitely take whatever money from, so blah, 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 blah. But the truth is, if you are a dishonest company, like somebody had asked me if I would ever get sponsored by Planet Fitness. If Planet Fitness had showed me that the DEI and the woke agenda and the LGBTQ was no more in their company, and they received enough backlash where they dropped all that, yeah, then I would. But if they just continue with the same nonsense, because I can't be a sellout because I'm not about that. I'm not about the woke stuff. I'm not about the LGBTQ community. I'm not about pushing this woke ideology. It's just not for me. So I do not want to be associated with a company like that, right? Okay. What the hell was my do you support people Photoshop? Oh yeah. So uh no, I don't support people that do it to deceive you. But the thing with Armana DB, he wasn't trying to deceive you. Yeah, and you have to, if you look at his Instagram and you think that he was trying to deceive you, I'm sorry, but you're blind. I don't know what you'd think. It was, I mean, that's just ridiculous. But anyway, we're going to talk more about that tomorrow night. Do you feel next question, Fab. Do you feel healthier ever since you retired from competing? You know what's funny? It's not that I feel healthier. If you've never competed before, there is this terrible feeling you get when you are deprived of calories, carbohydrates, and water. You're always irritable. You're always unhappy. Um, you're always everything is runs about revolves around you. And if something interrupts your schedule, because you need to have a hard schedule and a routine in order to compete. If something interrupts that, um, it affects you greatly as far as your attitude goes. I mean, I'm sure some people can deal with it better than others, but basically the majority of bodybuilders go through the same thing. And there have been times in the past where I was in the middle of a prep and I might have been 2, 3 weeks out, and I was having very low carbohydrates and very limited calories, and I would snap at somebody and I'm like, oh, and then I would go back later on and apologize, you know. So I felt crappy, and I didn't like feeling crappy. Now, if the reward of bodybuilding was greater than that feeling, then I understand it. If I'm able to make a living, if bodybuilding was the way I made a living, competitive bodybuilding, well, then you do what you have to do, just like any other job. But you got to be real about it. Um, am I? How far is this thing going to take me? How far is bodybuilding going to take me? And you have to balance it out. And sooner or later, you're going to have to ask those questions. Uh, and the majority of great bodybuilders know early on. They know very, very early on that this is what they're going to do and this is what they're good at. So it's not that I feel healthier. I'm more calm. I'm more grounded. I still eat very clean and very healthy. But if I want to go have M&Ms because I want M&Ms, I can go have M&Ms. If I go out with my wife and we go to dinner and I can eat what I want, I can eat what I want. I don't make a habit out of eating junk food, but that once a week or once every other week that I do, it's no big deal. Now, when you compete, you can't do that. You got to have this strict schedule. So it's more of like this irritable feeling, this sluggish feeling that you have to get through. Um, and that, and I feel much better now that I don't have to do that. So I don't think it's something that I was healthier. I think it was more of the way it made me feel as far as being irritable and happy and sociable, and so on and so forth. That answers that question. Next question from Fran is the man. Next question from Fran is Fran, I love you. Thank you so much for sending me um, all these questions, man. Truly. Next question. Do you feel healthy? Oh, we read that already. Okay, we did that one already. Next question. With the recent passing of Eugene Mishin, why do you think so many bodybuilders are dying so young? Man, that's a rough one. Look, people want to say that steroids don't play a part. I think they do to a certain extent. I think when steroids are abused, I think when steroids are built with other drugs or put together with other drugs, because you have to remember when you start doing a drug, it justifies you to do other drugs, and that's why they kind of always used to say, marijuana was a gateway drug. They really weren't wrong. They weren't. Alcohol was just as much of a gateway drug. Um, so you have to understand that if you start using anabolics, if you really don't have if you're really not a grounded person, it justifies you doing something else. Like, hey, I do anabolics. It's fine. I don't have any problems. if I want to smoke weed or if I want to take a diet pill that gives me lots of energy, or I can't sleep, so I want to take a Xanax or an Ambien, and then it's a snowball effect. The other way I think how steroids indirectly affect your health. If your body is meant to be 200 pounds naturally, right? You're a 200-pound natural man. Well, your heart, your liver, your lungs, your kidneys are all going to be built for a 200-pound man because that's what you are. Now, if you use anabolics and you get into bodybuilding and you become 300 pounds, well, that extra 100 pounds is a lot of stress on your organs that are naturally built for 200 pounds. And that's how it really affects you indirectly. That's when you start getting kidney problems. That's when you have stress on your liver. That's when you might have stress on your heart, and so on and so forth. So, if again, I say this all the time, if you are going to do anabolics, you have to do it smart. Okay. I don't do nearly as much anabolics as I used to. I've said this before. I take 500 milligrams of testosterone and 4 units of growth. That's it. 500 milligrams a week, 4 units of growth a day. That's what I use. That's all I use. And at the same time, I still get my blood work done twice. And I go to a cardiologist once a year. I have my appointment scheduled for October for my cardiologist. And it's just playing it safe, you know? Um, where are we going from here, Fran? Oh, the Eugene Mission. It's yeah. So that's how I think why bodybuilders are dying so much. Those are the two main reasons, I think, honestly. And as you get older too, I mean, I don't know what he was using. As you get older, your body doesn't react or bounce back as easily as you were when you're younger. When you're younger and you abuse drugs or abuse steroids, and then you come off, your body bounces right back. As you get older, especially over 40, it might not respond as well. You might not just jump back as well. You know, the damage that you may do to your heart, lungs, kidneys might be permanent if you're still doing hard drugs over 40 and a lot of abusing anabolics over 40. It might be permanent because you're just older now, and with age physically comes a lot of damage, a lot of wherewithal, even for somebody who doesn't use anything. Just a normal person. How many times have you seen a person who's in decent shape, normal, doesn't do drugs, family man, and tries to pick up like a pencil? And he's like, oh man, I get this pencil, right? That's just age. So now you're compounding that with all these drugs, these anabolics, and whatever else you're using. Doesn't help. It's not a good thing. That's for sure. Now, let's see, Eugene. Okay, two more questions, and then we're gonna call it quits. Second to last question from Fran is the man. Besides the USA, which country produces the best bodybuilders in the world? Well, right now, the Middle East. The Middle East, clearly. Clearly. Look at Tabani. Look at Heidi Chopin. You just go down the list. Look at that guy, what's his name? Mo Fuda. And then there's uh hard on. I forget his name. All these guys are from the Middle East. I mean, Aman Ashkenani, they're just coming out of woodwork. And here's what's funny, every time I interviewed King Kamali's been on plenty of times. King Kamali said this like 10 or 15 years ago. He goes, wait and see, because his parents are from Iran and he would go there often. He goes, wait, you'll see they're coming out of the woodwork. They're monsters over there. And he was right. He was 100% right. Who else makes good? I got to go with the Middle East first, and then I got to go with the United States second because we have a look. I'm just going to be real, okay? We have a very high population of African American athletes, African American people, and African American athletes are incredible at sports, are incredible at athletics. And anybody who wants to argue that is a fool. If anybody who wants to say that because they don't want to be politically incorrect is a fool. Okay. I mean, did you see the women's gold medal relay team, the United States relay team? It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe what I was watching. They don't look human. They look like machines. I mean, even passing the baton is damn near perfect. They wreck. It's just unbelievable. They just have great athletic genetics. So you're always going to have guys like, you know, the Ronnie Colemans, the Dexter Jacksons, the Flex Wheelers, and today I know Samson's from the UK, and Andrew is he's in Canada right now, and they're both from, I believe, Nigeria. But you get the hint, right? I'm so sorry, I'm getting a little tired, but you get the hint. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you just look at Sean Clarita, and you look at Keon, and you just go down the list, Charles Griffin, and uh they're just next to none. So I'd have to say first, Middle East, second, the United States, and then it's kind of sporadic. You have a lot of good Canadian bodies, a lot of bodybuilders from the UK, a lot of good bodybuilders from Eastern Europe, a lot of good bodybuilders from Eastern Europe, Russia, the Ukraine, a lot of great bodybuilders from there. Yes, I'd have to say them too. And that's about it. All right. Next question. Last question. Do you think the mafia has ever been involved in rigging bodybuilding show results? No. And one reason, and one reason only, you cannot bet on bodybuilding. You can't go to Las Vegas and go, I want to put $100,000 on Derek Lunsford to win the Olympia. Doesn't happen. No bookie is going to go, how much, who's going to place in the top 5. It doesn't happen. So why would organized crime try to rig bodybuilding shows if they can't bet? The whole idea for rigging is what happened in boxing. This happened in a lot of sports. I mean, everybody heard of Jake LaMotta taking the fall so he could get the title shot against it wasn't Sugar Ray Robinson. Sugar Ray Robinson was in World War II. I forgot there was another fighter who was the middleweight champion during World War II. And the only way Jake LaMotta was going to get that title shot was if he, faked a knockout or a TKO against a very lesser fighter so that the organized crime puts a lot of money on the lesser fighter, and he's the underdog and he's whatever 10-1 to win, whatever the case may be, and they make a shit ton of money, and then Jake LaMotta gets his title shot. That's the trade-off. Everybody has heard of the Black Sox when the White Sox threw the World Series because they were betting on the World Series. So no, I do not believe the mafia had anything to do with rigging bodybuilding for that reason and that reason only. You cannot gamble on bodybuilding. That's it. Anyway, that was a great show. Thank you guys for sending me the questions. It's always a pleasure answering it. I love answering. This is definitely my favorite part of the show. Now, tune in this Tuesday, October 20th, which will be tomorrow night. But when this airs, it'll be tonight because this is coming out 7 a.m. Tuesday morning. And then Mark Lobliner has agreed to come on my show on Thursday evening, and it will be aired on Friday. And he wants to clear the air between me and him. So what I did was I put a live feed to explain what exactly is happening between me and Mark Lobliner, and the fact that I am giving him a chance to explain himself with the one interaction that I had with him 3 years ago. So if you tune in tomorrow night, that will all be explained. And so far, I spoke to Mark very briefly last night. So far, he is coming on. And I believe everybody deserves uh, a little bit of time to explain themselves. And it is up to me, the judge, whether that explanation is sincere or he's just trying to get into my good graces. And that's what we'll be discussing tomorrow night, 8:30 p.m. live right here, bodybuilding. What the hell is the name of my channel? Bodybuild? No, fuck, not bodybuilding. Serious and silliness bodybuilding with the logo right there, masculine pride. That's right, baby. And if anybody hasn't figured out yet, this logo is put together because of it. It represents serious and silliness. You have the gladiator on one side, and you have the court jester on the other side. Serious and silliness. You guys are fucked up. I got to explain everything. I'll tell you, man. Oof. All right. Later, fellas.